wilt thou enter into my service and rid the world of all that came before? Well,
Hey guys, Thingfishy here. Welcome to part 2 of the All Achievements run. For this second playthrough, we're going for an INT faith build. And the title really isn't clickbait. If you want one build that's capable of using pretty much all of the most broken weapons in the game to devastating effect, and that gives you as many options as possible for combat, I think this is it. I think this genuinely might be the best build I've made in Elden Ring so far. I deliberately avoided using all the most OP stuff all the time, and tried to showcase how versatile this build is. But if you want to use the busted stuff, as you'll see, it's pretty ridiculous. So the first thing that we have to do is the worst thing in the game. Yeah. My tactic for fighting this tree spirit is wildly spamming the dodge button, attacking when it's close to you, finding a safe spot so you can heal up or buff, then getting hit through the floor apparently, and being sure to take a break every 5 minutes to scream into a cushion and wonder why you play this fucking. After that, it's time to go grab some bell bearings. We have all the smithing stone ones, apart from the first, in the Raya Lucaria crystal tunnel. The somber bell bearings can be found in the Celia Crystal and Altus tunnels, the First Church of Marika in the mountaintops, and the 4 and 5 are in Faramazula. Now we need to grab all the stuff for our INT faith build. First to the Frenzied Flame village outskirts grace, and up to the top of the tower for Howl of Shabriri. Then drop down to the Erd tree from the same grace to kill the avatar for the magic, lightning, and holy shrouding tears. Now to the one in East Caelid for the fire shrouding tear. Next up, we're going to grab 4 legendary talismans that will come in handy for our build and get us on the way to another achievement. First, head to the merchant down the ramp from Raya Lucaria to buy the Fanged Imp summon. Then grab the bell from the round table and head to the Albinuric Rise in the consecrated snowfield. Summoning your imps, then killing the enemy ones will unlock the rise where you can grab the Graven Mass talisman. Then to the Everjail in South Altus to bully the reskin for Godfrey's icon. For the third talisman, we go to El Fayal. Drop down to the street at the bottom. There's 2 Royal Revenants that spawn here, so use your mighty combat skills to best them in battle. Or scream and quit out every time one gets near you. Whatever works for you, really. Through the Stone Sword Keygate, you'll find Marika's Source Seal. For the final one, first head to Volcano Manor to buy Assassin's Gambit. This will be really useful for some of the dungeons we have to do later. And also our next talisman. From the Forbidden Lands Grace, head back into Lanedale. Use Assassin's Gambit on the stairs and run past all the spirits for the Erdtree's Favour +2. Now to Farum to see our old mate. Have a quick chat with him and take the shard he hands you before Raya comes to pick him up for their holiday to Ashina. Then to the Seathwater Terminus and up to the top of Fort Lyde for the Fire Scorpion charm. Now for an INT Faith build, we need a seal and a staff that scale with both stats. So first to the Minor Erdtree Church in Altus for the Golden Order seal. Then back down to Deeproot Depths and up the branches for the Prince of Death's staff. Time for some weapons and spells. First off, head to the round table and trade in all the remembrances for all of the boss weapons and incantations. Make sure you grab the Sacred Relic Sword from Elden Beast, Blasphemous Blade from Rykard, and Bastard Stars from Estelle. Now to grab the most broken weapon in the game, Bully the Deathbird in Southern Caelid for the Death's Poker. And for another busted one, down into Noxtella to grab the Wing of Astal. At this point, feel free to grab any prayer or spell books you might want for later. I grabbed the Godskin one in Stormvale, the Royal House Scroll in Limgrave, the Giants in the Guardian's Garrison in the Mountaintops, and the Ancient Dragon Prayer Book in Farum Azula. Kill the Glintstone Dragon on the Moonlight Altar for the Moonblade spell. The final two spells I grabbed were both from Deathbirds. The first by killing the Deathbird in Liurnia, and the second, the one in the Snowfields. I found choosing him with Elden Stars to be the least stressful option. Head to the town of Celia and light the tower in the southwest corner of the town to access Night Comet. Now back to the Celia hideaway and back to Lusat, whose quest we did in the last run, for some fashion. To complete the look, I decided to farm the Black Flame Monk outside Noble's Arena for a faith-based chest piece. I couldn't seem to find the actual drop rate for this armor piece, but I assume it's a 2% or lower, as I've farmed this guy for 20 minutes and got nothing. Then I slipped and accidentally changed my discovery stat to 10,000 in Cheat Engine. Now pop all the runes you have and buy enough Sombers to level a weapon up to +9. Level the Sacred Relic Sword, head to Renala to respec to our stats. Then to the Mogwin's Palace Approach Grace to murder some chilling Albinaurics in cold blood for money. We need enough runes to level up 6 Somber weapons and 2 smithing weapons. The only things that I maxed out here were the staff and the seal. Everything else only went to +9. Now, as we've got a much more suitable build, head back to the Halig Tree to fight Millicent's sisters. The Sacred Relic Sword works quite well for cheesing them if you hate this fight as much as I do. Head to Turtle Pope and buy all the spells and incantations you need. So after all that, we're ready to go. This is everything important that I'm going into this run with. So for this playthrough, we're going to focus on the legendary Ashen Remains trophy. The first one can be found very early on, in the Tombswood Catacombs in Weeping Peninsula. The Cemetery Shade boss here can be a bit of a nightmare. He's lightning quick and he hits hard. So the best strategy is, now the biggest problem that you're going to have with this run is option paralysis. With the amount of stuff we have and can use, deciding what you're going to bully the next boss with is the biggest problem on the run. As you can kill Margit with a handful of wet noodles, I decided to play around, proccing Frost with sorcery and resetting that with incantations. This would work really nice for bigger health bars too. For Godric, I went with some Ghost Flame sorceries to start. Not as much damage as I'd hoped, but it's still bullying Godric. And for phase 2, so that Ghost Flame spell got me thinking, is Ghost Flame just not as effective in New Game Plus? To test that theory, I broke out what I've previously called the best weapon in the game, and headed to Radahn. By the way, the buffs we're using for this run are Golden Vow and Howl of Shabriri before every fight. Now the Death's Poker is really good, but as we're in New Game Plus with some bigger health bars and this one's only at +9, don't expect the damage to be quite as Jesus fucking Christ. Well, Radahn's dead. Now, since this run was only my 3rd time being in New Game Plus, I wanted to put this damage into perspective a little bit. I didn't know whether it was the early boss's health bars not accounting for a +9 weapon, or whether the Death's Poker is just busted no matter what. The obvious thing to do, I thought, was immediately going to pick a fight with the late game boss. So I started following Vare's questline to get to Mogwyn's Palace for an early Moog. Rather than getting the medallions, I went up to the Ruinstream Precipice for the Magma Worm. So while you watch this fight, bear a couple of things in mind. This weapon isn't at max level, I don't have the Magic Shrouding tier equipped, and I'm at 40 in New Game Plus. Right, enough silliness. Let's go get our 2nd legendary summon. To do this, head down to Nokron and cheese the Mimic. Make sure you do actually unequip your staff and seal here, or you'll create your own Gideon. Next we head down into the Night Sacred Ground to grab the guy who did most of the heavy lifting on our first playthroughs. Now to Volcano Manor for Godskin. The Sacred Relic Sword really shines when dual wielded with Blasphemous Blade and used for dungeons and clearing out areas. It's genuinely one of the best weapons in the game for this purpose. Kill everything with the Ash of War and get health regen from Blasphemous. Its holy damage means it's not even close to being one of the best great swords for this build, but it is very usable, as you can see. For our 3rd legendary summon, back to Radahn's arena and ride right across the battlefield to the War Dead Catacombs to collect Redmane Knight Olga. The boss here is a putrid tree spirit, and as I'd already filled my tree spirit quota for the day with the Haligtree one, I broke out the Stick of Deletion again for an easy fight. Head back to Stormvale and up the tower again to grab Godric's Great Rune. For Red Wolf, cast Elden Stars as soon as you walk into the room. He'll try and chase the spell around, leaving you free to cast whatever you like at him. Renala is super resistant to magic, so blasphemous and physical damage spells are a really good mix here. Next up was the lane-delved tree sentinel, and I decided he was going to have a very rough day. So I went to the East Caelid Erd tree to get the stone barb cracked here for my physic. Can you believe that they actually nerfed this weapon? Now, before I got too carried away with the wing, I wanted to try its sister weapon, Bastard Stars. And after using it on exactly 2 bosses, my god do I love this thing. For fast moving bosses, especially strafable ones like Godfrey, this weapon is so satisfying to play with. Now for the rest of Rani's questline. And for a super safe but slightly unnecessary way of killing Blide, head to the streets of Sage's ruins, in the Caelid Rot Swamp, and down into the cellar for Rocksling. After grabbing the Fingerslayer blade from Nokron and speaking to miniature Rani at the Grace, walk into Blide's arena and start casting Rocksling. This works at any level, just keep casting and he'll never make it to you. Now for Astal. Rocksling doesn't do particularly good DPS here. It's spammable enough to end the fight very safely though, with the staggers it provides. Back to Renala's room to get the key from the chest, and finish the questline. Before we leave the Moonlight Altar, time to grab another legendary Spirit Ash, the Black Iron Tarkus of Elden Ring herself, Black Knife Teach. Head to the Ringleader's Everjail, and while Electo is normally a hard fight, unfortunately for her, she's weak to frost. To bully Fire Giant, I went down into the High Road Cave for the Blue Dancer charm. Despite having many spells and weapons that would end this fight far quicker, I went for the style points on this one. For duo, you can use anything you like. Death's Poker, Blasphemous, Moonlight Greatsword, Wing of Astal are all ridiculous melee options. Burno Flame and Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike if you want to completely delete them. For Malekith, I had an idea, and rather remarkably, it actually worked. Left hand the Moonlight Greatsword and buff it. Have the Wing of Astal in your right hand. Left-handing the Moonlight allows you to carry the buff through to the Malekith fight, while you use Wing of Astal for Beast. With this setup, you can kill Malekith before he even attacks. But where's the fun in that? For more style points on Godfrey, equip the Dark Moon Greatsword, Wing of Astal, and your seal. Get stuck in on phase 1 doing only R1s. Just wait for him to start the stomp. But what if you're a bit bored of all this spell nonsense and Ash of War spamming? What if you just want to fight something normally for a change? To try this, I went back to Redmane Castle to spam Night Comet on the duo. Then out into the castle and grab the red hot wet blade. So 70 levels of in do nothing for a Flame Heart infusion. But what if we put it on the most broken pure melee weapon in the game? Does pure melee actually work on an INT Faith build? Here's Radagon to answer that. For our penultimate legendary summon, we head back to the Sainted Hero's grave. This is one of my favourite dungeons in the game, as it's one of the few that pretty much require you to clear it out fully if you don't want to have a very rough time. The Blasphemous Blade is a great shout for this. You can bully everything with it, and the health regen will let you keep all of your heals for the boss fight. Go find Captain Bonkalot and lead him all the way back through the dungeon until he becomes damageable. Thankfully, the easiest part of this dungeon is the boss at the end of it. Now, since there was a setup that I wanted to show off but didn't want to use it for any of the good bosses, I decided to go on a little side mission to get something to help in the Commander Gnarl fight. Catch Flame got its first outing on the run here to deal with the third bloody tree spirit for the Cerulean Hidden Tier. Alright, you know why I picked this up, I know why I picked this up. I can't show all of the Broken in Faith stuff without showing it, so here it comes. I followed Millicent's questline to the Windmill Heights, then convinced her to give me the Prosthesis Talisman. So here they are, the two best spammable spells in the game. I'm really not sure if the consecutive attack talismans work with Catch Flame, but they definitely do with Slicer. Both of these builds will melt every health bar in the game with ease. Halictree Loretta is weak to lightning, so I broke out Old Reliable. Lightning Spear feels unspeakably dull compared to just about everything else in Elden Ring, but never write it off. It does great damage, and it's one of the few spells that works beautifully for both ranged combat and up-close parry strats. As you head through Alphael, run into the room next to this gazebo for Finlay, the final legendary summon to complete the achievement. And finally, for Malenia, Blasphemous Blade. Not only one of the best weapons in the game overall, but one of the very best for Malenia specifically. You can bully her around with this thing by itself, or you can kill her in 10 seconds by combining it with Flame of the Fell God and Burno Flame. And that's it for the second playthrough. In the final one, we'll fight a whole ton of bosses to finish off the final two achievements, as well as going for the best ending. If you try this utterly ridiculous build, let me know how you get on in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. See you soon.